At the moment I want to start on a fresh book, and while there's a lot that I want to go through in this New Testament, before I start on the Old, I'm going to have to live a long time, aren't I? But I'm dealing at the moment with the book of James, which is quite an unusual one. James, who describes himself as a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus, but he's talking very interestingly. Because as we begin here in the first chapter, James, who is a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus, he's actually speaking to the Jewish people, because he is addressing it to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. But then he goes into something, and his teaching is somewhat different to that of Paul. And here he goes on and says, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into many temptations. And I've got two versions here. I've got the New International and the Authorized, because I like the way that it's actually put in the New International, where he says, consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance, and perseverance must finish the work so that you may be mature. Now, this I find is a very interesting and major issue to us in our faith, that it's only when we face testing, in the Authorized Version it says the trying of your faith. Here it says the testing of your faith. In other words, faith has to face a test. Now, this is not just the gift of faith, this is the very faith which is the foundation of our salvation. You are saved by faith. And so this is the very essence of the testing of our own salvation. And what I'm finding here is, in this particular chapter, this is the theme, really, that's running through it. This testing, not simply of a gift of faith, but a testing of the very foundation of our salvation. Because our salvation is faith. We're saved by faith. Faith in the promises of God. Faith in the salvation. Faith in the death of Christ. So he goes on. And he says, know that the testing of our faith develops perseverance. So this only emphasizes the faith. It's faith into something which you can persevere. You know, the thing that is so important, because you get so many people who run well for a time and then drift away. It's so sad that we don't find enough now in Christian life of that persevering, that going on, not giving up, not quitting. You know, I'm always reminded of all those years ago, 1961, when I went to Jerusalem for the first time. I became a pioneer, in case you don't know my story. I was the first person in history, it was quite an event, the first person to make the overland crossing by road, by car, from England to Jerusalem. But the whole question was this, that I knew that we were facing so many difficulties. It was a battle. It took me 2 years of fighting to get all the visas, the permissions, and so often people would come up with the difficulties. I remember my own brother saying to me, how are you going to get across the Bosphorus in Turkey? And my answer was quite simple. Yes, there'll be a ferry to get us across, things like that. But from the moment that I set out, now this is an interesting thing. I want you to listen carefully when I'm saying this, because from the moment I set out, I knew that I had to persevere until I got there. Now, that applied in all the negotiations because everything was thrown at me. One was the difficulty of going behind the Iron Curtain. We wouldn't get visas. The other was going through Syria. If they knew we were going to Israel, we'd be shot as spies. And then the final blow, and I like this because time and time again in my life, it's like the final blow that was going to crush me was to realize in 1961, because the division, Israel was a new state, only 13 years old, and because the division between Jordan and Israel, you were only allowed to make a one-way crossing, and then you couldn't go back. I mean, people were saying, that's the end, you can't do it. But I persevered and eventually discovered that there was a ship that we could put the bus on, the minibus on, and come out from there and come back into Athens and then pick up the return journey. But it's this whole question of perseverance that I don't see this really preached on very much, taught, but this is one of the key elements of our life. Persevering in us, don't give up, don't quit. And it was very much that. And in so many things that I've done, even with going to Siberia, some of you realize, as the Iron Curtain opened, we made the decision to take 400 people to the far side of Siberia for 3 months. It was impossible. How could you, in a broken nation where everything was broken and nothing worked, not even the computers, how could you take 400 people for 3 months? In any case, they estimated the total cost would be over £2 million in those days. It would be 3 or 4 million today, and we didn't even have a mission, we didn't have any money. But because I believed that it was God's call, I persevered. We went. We stayed for the 3 months. We took 400 people. We came back and went back the following year, not with 400, but we did go back. Do you understand what perseverance is? Perseverance is the idea you've got a job and you're not going to stop till it's done.